Hey guys, Dragonlord Jonik here once again for another campaign diary. So let's dive right in. So when last we left our heroes, they were returning back from after defeating the 200 shirtless men in the woods. Now, we need to remember that while they were fighting the 200 shirtless men, remember when they had that wizard, that elf wizard who was a pain in the butt? Well, amongst all the other things they found on them was a deed to a place called Oovrengah. And so when they come back to Bartholomew in Renavas, as they're kind of debriefing, they mention, oh, by the way, we found this deed to a place called Oovrengah. And they talk to some, and Bartholomew to the party like, huh, I wonder what this is. And they call up some scholars, and a couple scholars are like, oh, that's a family. That's a family in Fritzless's realm. It's a high-ranking elven family. That's the name of their estate. Oovrengah. It's the Oovrengah. It's named after the family. And they're like, oh, that's cool. And Bartholomew is like, that's in Fritzless's territory. And they're like, yes. And they're like, how far? And the scholars are like, well, it's several miles. It's about a good, 20 miles inside the border. And he's like, interesting. And he talks to the party. He's like, I want you guys to go investigate this estate. Find out if we could use it as a foothold into Fritzless's territory. And the party's like, all right, we'll do it. We'll go check it out. We got the deed, so it's kind of ours now, if you will. And so sure enough, he sends them. And as they're traveling, I had them run into a border patrol. I wanted to give them the sense that now they're behind enemy lines. Now they're in some danger. And so that was the whole point of this. It was a very quick encounter, but it did its job. And so they get past it quite easily, and they quickly come to Oovrengah, this estate. And as they are coming along this winding road, shortly it opens up, and they could just see this beautiful mansion. I had kind of an old southern plantation mansion in my head as I was describing it, and I think that got across pretty well. And so they have like, oh, this is kind of cool. And as I was describing it, actually someone was like, oh, this sounds like one of those old plantation mansions. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Way to go. But so they walk in, and they're treated like your very common entry hall, the staircases leading up to a balcony on the top floor, doors lining either side, and pretty quickly they entered actually there was a combat encounter. I had a couple little random little creatures. I had two little lizard folk come in. There was these things called there were these choking vines that would reach. Some would reach out of the floor, some others reached out of the ceiling, and would come and would strangle the players, and they had to succeed on a strength check to beat them. I also had a swarm of little spiders come down the wall and attack, and everyone was just like, whoa, this is weird. Everyone was kind of freaked out. They fought, and they did pretty well. And there was also this gelatinous cube that came out from under the stairs and tried to swallow one of the players, and nom nom, and it managed to kill that. Except it then split in two and caused even more trouble. And it was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? This place is terrible. We're gonna die in here. I mean, they weren't like, we're gonna die here, but this is crazy. We're getting hurt really badly. We just walked in and we're already taking some serious damage. So it already created some tension. So all right, you know what? We're gonna keep going. And so they go into a hallway, and the hallway's purple. Not just the walls, though. Everything is purple. They have turned purple themselves. And everyone's like, what the heck is going on here? And they keep going, and they go through the hallway, and they come into this room, and it's a much larger room. And it is filled with these shadowy cloaks, almost think Dementors, minus the skeletal hands. And everyone draws their weapons, and they're ready. And the creatures just sit there and moan at them. There's okay, and Sonia's like, I'm just gonna try and walk past them. Sure enough, she walks right past them. They just kind of moan at her, and everyone's like, this is just weird. They go into another hallway. They go through the next door, and they go into it, and it's a hallway. And as they're walking, all of a sudden they're on the ceiling. There's paintings on the wall, so they can tell that they're on the ceiling. That, or all the paintings are upside down. And everyone's just like, what is going on? I mean, it was literally, I said that you're walking down the hallway, and all of a sudden you find yourselves walking on the ceiling. And everyone's just like, what is going on here? And they keep going, and they come to the door. And this is one of my favorite parts about the entire little adventure. They go and they open the door, and right as they're about to open it, the door swings open in front of them. And there's a bunch of grannies, and they're just like, oh, you guys look so cute. And they pinch their cheeks, and they give them a little bit of candy, and they close the door. And at this point, the whole party is just like, WTF. F. What is going on here, Peter? And I'm just like, it's a weird place. It's magical. And they're like, I guess so. So they try opening the door, and this time, sure enough, the door, they can see it leads into a room, and they walk through. And I'm like, and I say, okay, who goes through first? And Sonia, she's like, well, no, it wasn't Sonia, it was Sydney. Sydney was like, I'll go through first. I'm like, all right, you go through first, you fall, and disappear. And everyone's like, wait, what? Everyone kind of like, like everyone tries to crowd through the door and they're like looking down. And sure enough, here's this giant ledge into the room. It was actually door, ledge, comes down, rest of the room. And it was like weird. And I'm like, how far is it? I was like, only about 10 feet. I'm like, huh. Everyone jumps down. And I'm like, you then look back. One of you guys, as one of you looks back, you'll notice that it's now not a 10-foot. It's a 50-foot ledge. And everyone's like, what? Seriously? I was like, yeah. It's a 50-foot ledge now. Like, all right, we'll describe the room. And I described the room. It was like, there's all these different doors. There's like 5 different doors. At this point, there were 5 people in the party left. And they're like, all right, let's all take a door. And everyone's like, okay, that sounds good. Braden's like, I'll go first. He goes, opens his door. I'm like, Braden, you disappear. Hazel, who was currently dating Braden at the time of this adventure, was like, I'm going in the door after him. I was like, okay, that's fine. So she charges in after him, like, okay, you disappear. Everyone's like, all right, this is weird. Let's go in our doors. Let's find out what's happening. They all go in their doors. I think there was a little bit of they felt this was something I wanted them to do. So they're like, all right, let's play with the DM. Let's see what he's got. So they all went in their doors. And in each of their doors, they all find themselves in a separate chamber, facing their worst fears. For Braden, the beer is all gone. For Sonia, her character Garza, the half-orc fighter, had a very low intelligence, so she had to take the SAT test. And she flipped when I told her. She was just like, what? And at this point, everyone was like, oh, okay. What they remembered was that actually the week before, I had texted everybody and said, all right, guys, what is your character's worst fear? And everyone was kind of like, wait, what? All right, well, here's my character's worst fear. I was like, all right, thanks. And the moment I had said, the beer is all gone, Sonia, you're taking the SAT, everyone was like, oh my gosh, it's our worst fears. And everyone was like, at this point, everyone was kind of like, all right, come at me with your best shot. One person, Sam had to face like a graveyard. Hazel had to face she had to face a graveyard too, which was kind of interesting. The fact that 2 characters both were kind of afraid of graveyards. So it's kind of cool, but also just kind of weird. I can't remember what Nathan also had to face the fact that all the rum is gone. And at this point, in order to get out of it, they had to all roll different checks. Sonia had to roll like a history check to do well on her SAT. Braden and Nathan, both of them, their worst fear being all the alcohol being gone, had to roll a wisdom save and a constitution save. One to not go, basically just to not go stir crazy. Hazel and Sam, both being afraid of graveyards, had to roll I had them roll wisdom saves for bravery, if you will, as they had to traverse their graveyard. But sure enough, they all rolled successful and they all got out. I had low DCs for the rolls, but it was mostly just to kind of force the characters into these situations and come out. And I said, all right, when you succeed, you find yourself back in the hallway. The door you went through, gone. Instead, just a blank piece of wall. And so all they're left with is this little room they're in and one door on the side that they hadn't gone in. They're like, all right, we're going to go in. And they all go in this doorway. And I said, all right, who goes in second? And they're like, wait, what? I was like, who goes in second? They're like, well, Braden was kind of closest to us. He goes in first. Hazel, therefore, goes in second. I said, all right, Hazel, you disappear. And she's like, what? Her and Sydney are both kind of not pouting, but they're just kind of what the heck is going on? We're out of the game. And I was like, yeah, you disappear. Don't worry, guys. All will be explained shortly. They're like, all right, fine. So they go, and they find themselves in a long hallway. And at the very end is a plank of wood and a drop. A black pit drop. And they're like, all right. They go and they check it out. It's like, suddenly, the wall behind you starts to creep forward. The wall just keeps coming forward. And they're like, Braden just says, screw swan dive. And he swan dives off to the side, off the edge. Meanwhile, everyone else is kind of you know what? They kind of hesitate. I said, you know what? It pushes you guys all off. They're like, they all fall down. And they all find themselves. I said, you all fall. And you kind of wake up in a giant white square room. And so they wake up in this white, sterile, square room. And I said, in this room is a giant, red, sleeping dragon. And everyone's like, oh shoot. And I said, and the dragon wakes up and he looks at you. He spreads his wing and he attacks. Everybody roll initiative. And I'm like, oh crap, we can't fight a dragon. And so I'm like, all right, no, you're going to fight a dragon. They're like, oh crap. Well, they did their best. And the dragon, in one round, kills all three of them. All of the three remaining characters. Because I think I had Sam disappear. So all that was left was Nathan, Brayden, and Danny. All that's left. And they're like, well, we're going to give our best shot. And they just got destroyed. And as the last person died, I said, you all simultaneously wake up in the entry hall. And everyone's like, what? I'm like, you wake up in the entry hall. And they're like, and lording over you is this wizard standing on the balcony. And what I then kind of stepped out of the game and said, all right, what you just experienced was a dream. And everyone's like, oh, it was a dream. Prior to this adventure, I'd wanted to come up with something a little different. We had such a wide variety. I still wanted to do something different, something that would be unique. And so as it was also close to Halloween time, I decided this would be a fun one to do. Let's make something very trippy. Do something that would just really blow their minds. And that's where I had all the different ideas. I had purple hallways, walking on the ceilings, strange cloaked figures that just moan at you, and the grannies giving you trick-or-treat candy rather than the opposite way around. And so I said, as you wake up, you see this wizard, and you can notice that he's wearing the same emblem as that wizard you killed with the 200 shirtless men. Everyone's like, oh, we gotta kill this guy too. I was like, yep, roll initiative. They rolled initiative, they killed him. He actually nearly killed most of the party. They were all clumped together, and early on, one of the first things he does is he throws a fireball at them, and they're like, crap. Most of them succeed on their dex saves. Only Danny failed his dex save, and I rolled the damage, and I rolled incredibly high, and everybody was knocked down to within 10 HP. They had less than 10 HP, and Danny, we thought he was dead, and then we realized he's a tiefling. He has resistance to fire damage, and so he survived by the skin of his teeth. It was intense. We were like, oh my gosh, I thought I had just killed the party for a second. Fortunately, I didn't. They killed the wizard instead, and that was the end of the session right then. It was certainly a different session by any and all standards. It was kind of a fun one looking back in retrospect. At the same time, it's one we don't talk about very much. And I think that shows that as fun as it was for me to be lording over all of it, I think the party did not feel that much fun coming out of it. The design of the place that I had given them was fairly linear, and so there was no real choices for them other than just to go in. And the whole time I think everyone's like, this is just weird. And so I think that's a risk you take, that we all have to learn where the balance point is with our individual groups, is how weird can I get, and how linear versus sandboxy can I get. And that comes, and the preferences will come with every DM and with every player, and it just takes practice. I learned that this was a little too much. I have never been anywhere close to that weird since, and I think it's paid off. So thanks again, guys, for tuning in. Hope this was a more entertaining little campaign diary. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you guys got something out of it, though, to an extent. Maybe you guys have some ideas. If all else fails, you can take some of these inspirations, some of these little vignettes, and you can maybe twist them, or maybe they inspire you to come up with something yourself. Hopefully you still got something out of it in the end, though. And I'll see you next time. Stay cool.